ABC General Hospital spoilers for the week of February 23 to 27 reveal that tension in Port Charles began to mount the pry. Moment whispers spread that Sidwell was preparing to challenge Laura's decision regarding Drew's replacement in Congress. Laura had made her intentions clear. She wanted Alexis, a trusted ally with deep moral conviction, to step into the role. Alexis represented stability, transparency, and a kind of integrity the district desperately needed after Drew's sudden incapacity. But Sidwell saw the situation through a different lens, one sharpened by ambition and self-preservation. Alexis was too principled, too independent, too unwilling to bend to the political currents he manipulated behind the scenes. And so, with mounting frustration, Sidwell began quietly laying the groundwork to push Laura into nominating Willow instead, believing Willow to be someone he could influence, someone desperate enough to maintain his leverage. What Sidwell didn't anticipate was how fragile Willow's carefully constructed facade truly was. As she juggled campaign preparations, legal maneuvering, and her obsessive need for control, Drew remained hidden in the shadows of her home, drugged into silence. Her success depended entirely on maintaining that illusion of stability. But Kai.com, observant and far more perceptive than Willow realized, was becoming an unpredictable variable. Initially, his intention to visit Drew was born from concern, curiosity, and a sense of loyalty. After all, Drew's sudden disappearance from public life had unsettled many. But as Kai stepped deeper into Willow's domestic world, subtle signs began to raise questions he couldn't shake. The house was too quiet, the medical supplies too carefully concealed. The air carried an uncomfortable tension, as if the truth hung just beyond the threshold of a closed door. Willow tried to maintain her composure, insisting Drew needed rest, that he wasn't receiving visitors, that he was healing in his own time. But Kai noticed the tremor in her voice, the way she stepped between him and the hallway, the flicker of fear each time he asked a seemingly harmless question. One particular day, as Kai lingered near the guest room, he heard a faint, muffled sound, like someone stirring who should not have been able to move. And for the first time, suspicion hardened into certainty. Something was deeply wrong inside that house. The seed of doubt took root, and Kai found himself replaying every interaction with Willow. The inconsistencies, the evasions, the sudden bursts of defensiveness, all of it pointed to a truth darker than he wished to believe. Willow wasn't protecting Drew. She was hiding him, controlling him, possibly harming him. Kai knew he needed to tread carefully, but the weight of what he suspected grew heavier with each passing day. And when Alexis crossed his path, calm, sharp, and genuinely invested in uncovering the truth behind Drew's disappearance, Kai recognized that she might be the only person capable of handling what he had begun to uncover. He didn't reveal everything at once. Instead, he offered fragments, questions, concerns. But Alexis was quick to connect the dots. The more Kai shared, the clearer the picture became. Willow's pristine public image was a mask, and beneath it lay a secret capable of detonating her entire political future. The dilemma now shifted from discovery to responsibility. Should Kai fully expose what he suspected? Should Alexis move forward with a formal inquiry? If they did, Willow's campaign would crumble instantly, Sidwell's manipulations with it. The political structure Sidwell had been trying to build around Willow would collapse like a house of cards, taking his influence with it. But if they remained silent and Willow continued her rise to power, an innocent man might never escape the emotional and physical prison she had created. Ultimately, the truth refused to remain buried. Kai's conscience pushed him toward action. And as Alexis listened, her expression shifted from concern to alarm to a kind of steely resolve Kai had rarely seen. She understood what Willow's crimes represented, not just a personal betrayal, but a political catastrophe waiting to happen. The moment Kai entrusted her with the final detail, the sound he heard behind the closed door, the unmistakable proof that Drew was conscious enough to attempt movement, Alexis knew the facade around Willow was moments away from collapsing. The storm was coming. Sidwell's plan to control the congressional seat was unraveling. Kai had revealed a secret too dangerous to ignore, and Willow's relentless pursuit of power had finally brought her to the brink of ruin, where one more misstep would send her entire campaign crashing into the truth she fought so hard to bury. After Maxie's joyous homecoming celebration, the excitement that had filled the halls quickly dissolved into a suffocating pressure she hadn't anticipated. The moment the last guest left and the music faded, reality settled over her like a weight she could no longer outrun. Maxie had barely begun adjusting to the chaos of returning home when she was confronted with something far more overwhelming. Nathan, a man she had mourned, a husband she had loved, and a ghost she had finally laid to rest, standing now in front of her in the flesh. As soon as she saw him, her breath caught, her mind fractured between disbelief and longing. Could this truly be Nathan? Had he somehow survived against all odds? Or was grief playing tricks on her battered heart once again? The way he said her name, the familiarity of his presence, it all clawed at memories she had tried so hard to bury. And yet a part of her resisted fully accepting it. The stakes were far too high. If she believed too quickly, she risked shattering herself all over again. But the deeper emotional battlefield was yet to come. Because if Maxie allowed herself to believe Nathan had returned from the dead, she would instantly be pulled into an impossible triangle between him and Damien Spinelli. Spinelli had stood by her through the darkest years, loving her from a distance with a quiet devotion he never fully abandoned. He had given her stability when her world was crumbling, comfort when grief threatened to consume her. And now, just when he finally felt brave enough to take a chance on love again, Nathan appeared. The timing was cruel. When Spinelli confessed that he still envisioned a future with her, Maxie felt herself unraveling. His honesty was tender and earnest, spoken with the kind of vulnerability that forced her to confront emotions she didn't want to examine too closely. She knew Spinelli's love for her ran deep, rooted in years of shared history and sacrifice. And she also knew that if Nathan truly was alive, the foundation beneath all their lives would shift violently. But the most devastating part was the fury and madness beginning to rise in Spinelli's normally gentle heart. He had waited for Maxie, hoped for her, believed that fate was finally turning in his favor. Now, watching her struggle to understand Nathan's return, he felt a mixture of panic and heartbreak twist inside him. Nathan's sudden reappearance didn't just complicate Maxie's emotions, it ignited a deep insecurity Spinelli had fought for years to quiet. The fear that he would always be second choice. The fear that Maxie would lose herself in the past again. The fear that destiny was mocking him. As Maxie interacted with Nathan, hesitant, emotional, desperate for clarity, Spinelli felt something inside him fracture. The man who had built his world around love and logic was slipping into something more chaotic. Watching the woman he loved stand face to face with the husband she had buried unleashed a storm of desperation and jealousy he didn't know he was capable of feeling. He tried to be understanding, tried to remember that Maxie's heartbreak was real, but the more he watched, the more he felt himself spiraling into a madness born from hope colliding with fear. His brilliance, once a gift, now tormented him. Every possibility raced through his mind. Every scenario twisted into a nightmare. Was this Nathan real? Was he an imposter? Was someone manipulating Maxie? Or worse, was fate simply cruel enough to resurrect a love Spinelli had no chance of competing with? Maxie could see the confusion in Nathan's eyes, the longing that still lived in him, but she also saw the way Spinelli recoiled each time she drifted toward her past. And suddenly she found herself caught between two worlds, one built from cherished memories, the other from steady, reliable loyalty. Each man represented a different version of the life she might want, but choosing between them threatened to tear her in half. The more time Maxie spent with Nathan seeking answers about his survival, the more Spinelli's emotional restraint fractured. His calm veneer began to crack, revealing a storm of jealousy, fear, and heartbreak boiling beneath the surface. What began as a quiet ache grew into something explosive, an emotional breaking point that threatened to ignite in ways he couldn't predict or control. And as the tension between the three of them intensified, one undeniable truth emerged. Maxie's attempts to understand Nathan's return had triggered a level of emotional chaos in Spinelli unlike anything he had ever experienced. A storm was building, and when it finally broke, nothing between them would ever be the same. Cullum had always been patient, too patient, some might say. He preferred to wait in the shadows, gathering information, studying patterns, and striking only when the moment guaranteed maximum impact. But the calm that once defined him was slipping. His silence had stretched long enough, and the time had finally come for him to pull the next trick from his sleeve. Port Charles had been restless, lulled into a fragile sense of safety, unaware that Cullum had been watching the entire time. And now, with his plans sharpening and his motives tightening, the town was about to feel the full weight of his attention. His first target was Britt. Whether he had discovered the truth already or was closing in on it, one thing was clear. Britt Westbourne's secret involvement with Jason Morgan was no longer safe. If Cullum had confirmation or even suspicion that Britt had been slipping in and out of Jason's orbit, everything changed. Jason's quiet stability, his attempts to stay under the radar, all of it would become fuel for Cullum's manipulation. A connection to Jason was always dangerous. A romantic one was deadly. If Cullum exposed their relationship, Jason could be pushed back into a violent world he had been fighting to escape. Worse, it could put Britt in the crosshairs of an enemy who thrived on exploiting emotional weaknesses. But Britt wasn't the only one walking a thin line. Jocelyn trying to balance her personal life with her new covert role. She had no idea that Cullum had been tracking her movements as well. She had been careful, disciplined, trained, alert, but even the best operatives left shadows behind. Pieces of her behavior didn't fit the profile of a normal college student. Her presence in restricted areas, her strategic conversations, her inexplicable access to information, Cullum had noticed all of it. And once a man like Cullum noticed a pattern, he did not forget it. He dissected it. It was only a matter of time before he uncovered the truth. Jocelyn Jax was an operative for the WSB. And once that truth reached him, the consequences would be catastrophic. Because Jocelyn wasn't just any agent, she was young, talented, emotionally invested, and dangerously connected to one of the most powerful families in Port Charles. Her vulnerability made her a perfect target. Cullum wouldn't simply expose her. He would weaponize her. He would twist her mission into leverage, her identity into bait. The moment he confirmed her allegiance to the WSB, Jocelyn would be in more danger than she had ever imagined. And Carly, fiercely protective, stubbornly loyal, and willing to burn the world down for her children, would find herself dragged into the storm alongside her daughter. Jack Brennan felt the threat coming, but even his instincts might not be enough. If Cullum turned his attention fully toward Jocelyn, Brennan would have to move mountains to keep her alive. Protecting an inexperienced agent from a man who specialized in psychological traps and political sabotage was nearly impossible. Brennan would be forced to anticipate every strike Cullum made, every leak, every setup, every whisper planted in the wrong ear. And outmaneuvering Cullum required more than skill. It required a willingness to think like a predator. As tension built, the air around Port Charles thickened with the sense that something huge was about to snap. Jocelyn's secret life teetered on the edge of exposure. Jason and Britt's relationship dangled at the brink of becoming a weapon. Carly felt an unspoken danger tightening around her family, the kind that made her instincts scream even when she didn't yet know the source. And Cullum.com, deliberate, relentless, was preparing to unleash chaos with surgical precision. The moment he struck, everything would explode. Jocelyn's double life, Jason's fragile stability, Carly's sense of safety. All of it would detonate in a storm Cullum had been engineering from the shadows. And once the first domino fell, Port Charles would never be the same.